Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Hello and welcome to On the Corner of Main Street. Hello, Jonathan. How's it going?
Wonderful, Lise. Good to be with you here.
Good to be with you as well. I feel like we've talked a lot about COVID and the pandemic, and we had a little bit of feeling like, okay, it's over, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And now?
It's not. Now we're back. Everyone's like, Vegas is back. No, COVID is back. It's well documented, the weeks of July 4th, July 10th with the Garth Brooks concert and the Conor McGregor fights, and it just seems like the town got back really, really fast, and our numbers there was a travel advisory from Hawaii, Illinois, California against Nevada, so as we felt we were coming out of it, so we seem to be going back into it, and I don't know how that will affect people's plans and travels yet. I think people that are vaccinated still just want to get out and have fun, and so who knows? People are still excited to be in Vegas, and there's still good energy, and hopefully that continues.
Yep. Today's guest is sports related, and we've talked a lot about sports, but it's just so important to Las Vegas.
Well, it's become that way. It wasn't always. I mean, sports betting's become huge across the country as it's been legalized in different states. We've talked about that with Joe Asher and Stations Casino, sports betting. We have a guest today who once was a player, I guess, and a very successful player, a Stanley Cup winner. And it is cool to hear their stories. I know it's not our traditional guest. I think people definitely want to hear about history of Vegas and gaming, and that seems to be the feedback we get the most. But it is cool to hear people in our community that are making a difference, that are contributing, that have moved here and made a name for themselves. And this guy certainly falls into that category. And I mean, the Golden Knights are huge and have a huge pool within our community, and then obviously you look at what's happening with the Raiders, you look at the Lights, the Aces, and then everything else that might be coming. We talked with the mayor a couple of weeks back about maybe the A's. She seemed more on the NBA trail. Yeah. And this is a funny time of year, of course, because there really isn't much, right? You got baseball, English Premier League's done, NBA's done, NFL's done, ice hockey's done. This is kind of that lull in the summertime. But for Las Vegas, sports betting is a huge part of our business, and now we have in our community real sports talent, which is very, very cool to have. And speaking about a lull.
Speaking of a lull, speaking of travel and lulls, we are going to take a little bit of a break, a summertime break from the podcast, and then we'll be back in a couple months.
Are those tears I hear, Rich?
A couple months?
The fans are very disappointed.
How about near the end of September, right?
Okay.
Can we negotiate on this?
Okay, deal. You win. But we'll be back, and we have so many more exciting guests to speak to. There's so many more key players in this town that we need to get their stories and hear about what they're doing.
Well, until then, let's get to today's guest.
Today we are joined by a Stanley Cup winner and the Vegas Golden Knights TV analyst. Welcome Shane Hnidy to On the Corner of Main Street.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hi Shane, welcome to Oscars, welcome to the Plaza. Good to have you in downtown Vegas.
I love it down here. Yeah, it's nice. I'm going to come back to Oscars when it's open, but it's good to be here right now to visit with you guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting you here for dinner, and it's nice to spend some time with you. I know I got to see you at a game a couple of months ago. But it's good to have you here on our turf.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a pretty good chance you'll see me at a game.
And it's an honor to have a Stanley Cup winner on our podcast.
Huge honor.
Now that ice hockey's all the rage. I didn't know what an ice hockey game was 3 years ago. And now it's all anyone talks about. It's can you go to an ice hockey game?
And I love how you say ice hockey. Yeah. Here in America, we just say hockey.
Right. Thank you for correcting me.
It sounds fancier said like that.
I see.
And you know what? That right there is one of the greatest pleasures I take. You know, it's been my life, and part of the reason I wanted to come to Vegas for people like you to share a sport that's been my life and not only grow the game for kids, but to have new fans. So, I love it.
Well, you guys are sure doing that. Kids are playing it more than ever now, and at least in Vegas, I should say. I know my kids at school, they talk about it now. They're all going to have to build fancy facilities and stuff now to get the kids playing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not a cheap sport, but certainly it's one for everyone, and it's great to see all kids, boys, girls, everybody getting involved with skating and then into hockey. And, that's what happens when you bring a sports team in, a hockey team, and not only that, a successful one, which beyond my wildest imaginations haven't been in hockey as long as
You know what I want to do one time? I've never done it.
Okay.
Whenever you have time, I'd love to try put on skates and actually see what it's like to swing a. No, bad idea. Bad idea.
Before you start swinging everything, let's just start with you getting the skates on and on the ice.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Not swinging.
That's the first lesson is skating.
Yeah, skate. It's pretty tough to play the sport if you can't skate. that would be number one. Step one.
Have you ever ice skated?
I have, yeah. I'm laughing because it's like when when I come to America and people are like, I don't understand soccer, it's terrible, I don't get it. I probably sound like that guy now talking about ice hockey. No. And I don't want to be that.
Well, that's good. That's we're here, educate.
Yeah, exactly.
I love soccer too. I actually played it in the off season, kind of like a beer league type soccer when I was 19.
I see all the guys before the Golden Knights games. They're doing keepy uppies.
Yeah, what do you call it? We
keepy
call
uppies.
Keepy uppies. There's other names, kind of garbage ball, whatever you want to call it. Kind of.
Right. They're keeping the ball up in the air to stay loose, I guess.
And it gets competitive. It gets really competitive. Guys try to knock one another out. I used to play that.
Right. You trust you guys to make it about knocking each other out. In England, you just got to keep the ball up.
Yeah, exactly.
The ice hockey guys want to knock each other out.
Yeah, we knock it out until two guys are left, and take a lot of pride when you win those games before it's kind of the warm up. But it's a good way to kind of relax and get loose before the game.
So all the teams do that,
and it's been going on a long time. And when I played early in my career, it's usually the Swedish guys were really probably the ones that were the best.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like William Karlsson grew up playing
soccer,
yeah,
football, real football.
Football, yeah. He's a good player. I think Belmar, who was from France, was good when he was here earlier. But there's usually a few guys that grew up playing a little more than the Canadians and the Americans.
So before Lisa jumps into her first question here, I wanted to ask you: have they found Mark Stone yet?
He's fine. He's all set. He's getting ready for next year.
See, I had to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
He's found. He's okay.
He's
ready for next year.
Did he get lost?
Well, I know where he's going. But
he went missing on the big stage, apparently.
I don't think so. I just think
I'm being
part of it is you don't get to win the Stanley Cup without adversity. Right. And it doesn't happen. Everybody says, well, look at Tampa. They've won twice in a row. Well, you look at the 5 years prior to that. The year they almost set a regular season record for wins and points, they got knocked out by Columbus in the first round.
Right.
And then after that, they won the Cup. They went and they lost in conference finals. They lost in Stanley Cup finals. They went through a bunch of years of pain, and then now they realize what it takes. And that's just sometimes – the development curve or the learning curve for a team to figure out what it takes to actually get that ultimate prize.
Yeah, and I think people probably take it for granted how successful this team's been. I mean,
it's easy to do.
Right. Would you have said you would have ever thought that, never mind off the field, off the ice, which we'll talk about, but on the ice that a team could be this successful in its first 4 years?
No. When I applied for the job, I had a feeling that hockey was going to be a success here, eventually.
Damn, I wish I met you 4 years ago.
Yeah, not in my wildest dreams that I think it would become what it was. And that said, just the sport, I thought, entertainment capital, I figured the sport would work here. But then, I remember seeing the team, and I was talking with my broadcast partner, Dave Gosher, and we talked a lot. Once we were hired and together, we're like, he looked at the team. It's an expansion team. It's going to be a long year. It's going to be some long nights on when we're calling these games, and, we're going to have to, we'll talk more about maybe the opposition, some of the stars in the game, and kind of, do it that way, just if things aren't going well. Well, we never even had to. They just took off, and it was kind of surreal to begin with. Is this really happening? And then finally it kicked in, and, maybe November, December, this team is for real. And, I still think I'm 20-plus years of the NHL and playing and broadcasting, even winning the Stanley Cup. That, to me, was still the most remarkable full season I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, and that's why it's funny when people say, did Mark Stone go missing? Because they have no idea. People have no idea just how remarkable this team is.
Yeah. And how good he is.
Right.
Oof.
So where are you from?
I am from a small town in Nipawin, Manitoba, Canada. So the best way to describe it is people won't have a clue, a lot of people, is North Dakota. If you go to Grand Forks and you drive about 3.5 hours north with a little east in it, you'll get to it.
And then how did you end up coming to Vegas? Tell us about your career.
Oh, this is a long story. Well, so I grew up in a small town, 3,500 people.
Nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. I always, for any movie buffs that listen to this, if you ever see the movie Dazed and Confused, just switch football for hockey. That's kind of the small town I grew up in.
Okay.
We drove around, we partied, we lived, farmland, the prairies, and then played hockey. I moved away at 15 to pursue hockey, playing in the Canadian Hockey League. Got drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, but nothing happened. Then I basically was ready to quit hockey at 20, and then I went down and played in the East Coast League, and which was my first experience in, let's call, a non-traditional hockey market, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh,
Yes, for the Baton Rouge Kingfish. It was the only inaugural team I ever played. It was the first year they ever had a team down there, and it was great. They embraced us, and there was always initial excitement. But I wasn't there long. I called up the American Hockey League, and then I played in the IHL and then the American League for a couple years, and finally broke in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators.
Just for my stupidity, the NHL is obviously the top.
Yes.
AHL is the one below.
Yeah, AHL and IHL were the ones below. The East Coast is the ones below that, and that's where I started.
Okay.
So I didn't take the quick path.
So you weren't drafted, for example.
I was drafted, but the team didn't sign me. So what happens is then if they have 2 years with your rights to sign you and keep you.
Right.
They didn't. So I became open, and I was going to actually go play Canadian university hockey, but I decided to still try pro, which was a good decision. And, I started at the bottom and worked my way up, and eventually then 11 years last season with the Boston Bruins and a Stanley Cup. So
the Boston Bruins signed you in...
Well, eventually. I did 2 stints in Boston.
Okay.
How long do we have? Because it's a long story.
But bottom line is you ended up at the Boston Bruins.
The bottom line, yeah, through Ottawa. Then I was in Nashville. I played in Atlanta when there was a team which now moved to Winnipeg. I played 2 years there. I went to Anaheim, played for the Ducks for 6 months. Then I went to Boston for a couple years, then to Minnesota for a year, then back to Boston.
journeyman, I believe is the phrase in the pros.
Journeyman. Hey, if there was somebody willing to have me, I was willing to go.
But then you stayed 8 years in Boston?
No, I was only there once. So it's
you were there 1 year and won the Stanley Cup in that 1 year?
I played 2 years, and I took a year away. I was with the Minnesota Wild. Then I went back to Boston when they won.
And won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
How convenient.
Yes. It's good timing.
How did you... wow, that's good timing indeed. Yeah, was it a great team at the time? Were they known as like...
It was. So there's another story to it. So I didn't play for them that whole year. What happened is I was... it would have been, 35 at the time, which isn't old now for me. And I went... It was the first time in my career I didn't have a contract, and I couldn't get disability insurance because my body had been banged up so much by that time. Mm-hmm. So I went as a tryout to, at that time, it was the Phoenix Coyotes, which is now the Arizona, same team. Went to their camp. I had a really good camp. My agent called, said they'd like to sign you. We'll get something done tomorrow. That session, right after the call, I got bumped in the boards and something popped in my shoulder. Ugh. I tried to hold it off, couldn't. MRI, I tore my rotator cuff. That's 6 months. Surgery, recovery. So I thought my career was over. I was miserable. I went back home to my family. My wife kind of kicked my ass. She got me going in November. I remember, and she claims she did say this. She says, "You're going to get better, get back, go to Boston and win the cup." Well,
really?
I wish she could pick lottery numbers like that. But anyways, I started skating in January, and then Boston called. They'd like to review my shoulder, see how I was doing. They wanted a veteran guy. They wanted a guy that's very vocal in the room, which has led to my next career. I was always a vocal guy, and everything worked out. I joined the team in February, and then I played my first game for them in April, and played some games in playoffs, and joined them on the run to the cup.
Got it. And you said your body was pretty beat up at so many points, but was that because you were nicknamed the Sheriff? And you
nicknamed the Sheriff? Yeah, well, I don't know if it was because I was nicknamed the Sheriff. It was probably what I had to do to get that nickname.
Right, that's what I mean.
That helped lead to it.
Right. Yeah. That was just because you liked to good scrap.
I like to scrap. I like the physical part of the game. For me, there's certain points you have to realize. Everybody has a certain skill level, but you have to fit a role to play in the league unless you have that elite skill.
Right.
And I could think the game really well. I could see the ice and all that. Everything else was average. And then, you had to have a will, desire, and to sacrifice your body, whether it's diving in front of a puck,
Right.
Whether it was standing up for a teammate, fighting, dropping your gloves against someone that you probably shouldn't, which I'd done many a time.
You did a few times.
Yeah, and just the willing to do all the dirty parts of the game, which I.
Were you the designated fighter, or was that pretty much gone by then?
I was never considered that. I was a guy that I was known to. I always compare myself for fans like Derek England type player. Derek kind of slowed down near the end of his career. That isn't as part of the game, but he did. He kind of came up the same path as I did through the East Coast League, worked his way up, late bloomer, did whatever it took to stay in the NHL. And he had a better end to his career because he played longer than me, but that was the type of player I was. I wasn't considered a heavyweight or just there to fight, but I was certainly more than willing.
Does that position even exist anymore on most rosters?
No.
There used to be a designated fighter.
Yeah, if that guy came on the ice, it was gloves down.
Yeah. That Boston team we had that won was probably...
It's encouraged?
That was the last... Oh, yeah. It used to be... Here's a story you wouldn't believe about it. This is what it used to be like. When I was with Buffalo, I went to their training camp, and we did an exhibition game, which were full of fights. Like, camps used to be fights, one another, whatever, trying to get on the team. We were playing, so at that time, I think it was with the Rochester Americans. That was the American Hockey League team. It was just an exhibition game against, I believe, Syracuse. I'm not sure there were. But we had a bunch of fights, got a breakout. I got in a fight. A guy got in a fight before me. Those two guys went to the bench. I fought. And then the other guy's designated tough guy that I didn't fight, that a guy on my team did, was in the penalty box. When I came to the penalty box, they were yapping back and forth. He literally climbed over through where the timekeepers are, over our side, and jumped down. The refs grabbed the guy he was coming after, and it left me. It was like a cage match.
Just you two in the box?
Somebody found it on YouTube last year. It's just, but those days are long gone. But there was
that was my question. Like the NBA's cleaned up. Most sports, it's changed, right?
For better. The skill and the evolution of the athlete in all sports, right? They're bigger, faster, stronger, skilled. It's just it makes sports better.
Totally agreed. So what took place then after you got done with Boston that brought you to Vegas? Was it a direct transition?
Well, the one thing about hockey players is you really don't think to the future. You always have, and I think that's something that, any athlete, when you're in the sport, you have a sense of immortality, right? Like there's no end in sight. Because if you do, then that might take away from that edge you have to play the game. So it ended for me, and I was thinking about playing another year, and literally I got a call. I mentioned I played for Atlanta. I was back in Canada, my home province of Manitoba, and the Winnipeg Jets had just come back. The Atlanta franchise moved to Winnipeg, and it was literally the day every player that wins the Cup gets a day with it. It was the day I had the Cup. I was in a limo with my family, and we're driving from Winnipeg, where the airport is, to my small town, and I got a call from TSN, which is the ESPN of Canada. So TSN called me and said, would you be interested in joining the radio broadcast as an analyst for the Winnipeg Jets?
Okay, got it.
I said, well, I'm a little busy right now, but let's talk in a few days. And that led to the broadcast career, and I did radio for 2 years, and then I think it was year 2, one of the guys on TV couldn't make it. They said, will you jump in between the glass and do it? And I'm like, sure. And I went, and it was one of those things that just clicked. For whatever reason, and I remember going home that night and saying, now I know what I want to do. I want to be a TV analyst, and worked for them. And then as soon as I heard there was a team coming to Vegas, who do I got to call? Where's the connection? And it took forever. It literally, it got very stressful because the summer, the team was announced, and, I'm trying to find contacts from, I think it was 2017 of November until, when did they start? 17, 18?
I think it was 17.
Yeah, 17. So 2016.
Right.
And then it wasn't until August, I think I agreed August 5th of 2017. I was still, the hockey season starts, or camp, mid-September.
Right.
And I had to tell, but I finally got the call that I had been chosen to be the guy.
And you moved out to Vegas?
I literally did. So not that, but I had a daughter. I had to get ready, move her in all alone because she's going to university. 3 other kids, we had to cancel their school there. Come down here, find a house, sell our house there, move. But as I mentioned, all my stops, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
I signed. We flew down here August 8th, 9th, looked around, and by September 1st, we were here.
Wow.
Kids in school, place to live.
How are you enjoying the Vegas life?
Love it. This is home. As much as I've moved, I think, one thing we've agreed, and I think it's
You
the
didn't apply in Seattle for the next round?
No, I'm not moving. That's enough moving. I've found home. This is
good
this
golf,
is home.
good weather, good ice hockey.
home, the people. I think that's one thing people, outside. I used to come to Vegas every summer. But you didn't know outside, This is, there's teachers, there's lawyers, there's doctors.
Community.
It's a community.
Right.
And a great one's at that, wherever you go. And I've just been so impressed with the people here.
That's always the best when people don't realize, like, living here actually is a good lifestyle, good quality of life, good community, good people. And they always, initially, it's changed a little bit for me, but initially it's like, well, you live on the Strip because no one else lives in Las Vegas. But, of course, there's so much more to it, and the lifestyles that we all get to live here is fantastic.
Which part of town do you live in?
Out in Summerlin. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, I think we're all the Gold Knights headquarters with City National Arena, and and not only do I love the players, I think it's become a number one destination for NHL players that whether they're a free agent or have an opportunity to come here. It's just because of that, the Summerlin, it's not a long drive for comparable to when I was in Anaheim or Boston or Atlanta. The traffic, it's everything about it's great, and I think the guys love the location.
Is that a difference than other places in the league? Because as pros have made more money and have had more freedom, especially like in the NBA, you make your money, you play, and where you play doesn't make that much difference as long as you're playing. You get a condo, and then when the season's done, you go to your real home. But Vegas is the outlier?
I think that's more true of years ago. I think now players, that's more of a factor. The city, the amenities, the facilities where they practice, where their lounge. When I started in Ottawa, our players' lounge consisted of I think we had a sofa, a love seat, a toaster, and a coffee machine. Now these guys got private chefs. It's just. But that's that's how everything.
The money in the sport
exactly, but players look for that now, and Vegas is.
So you do the analysis on the game night, and then you also do a podcast for the Golden Knights, or is it?
We do many things. We do. We have the Sheriff of Lawless, some guy named Dave podcast.
And that's specifically about discussing ice hockey and the technicalities of the team
and breaking it down. And it's tough with all our schedules to get us together. We're trying to figure out a better format to pump those out a little more quick.
Okay.
But certainly, the number one is the games. But certainly, I think the one thing Vegas has done a good job, just like the world, is content. The team, we're part of that, and whatever they need us to do, we're there. So it goes much beyond just being the analyst for games.
You travel with the team.
Yeah. So I went right from playing to broadcasting. I've been traveling, given a hockey schedule from September till April, and then playoffs since I was 15 years old until March.
So
when everything shut down, and it's that's the first time in my life I have stayed in one spot.
Wow.
What did you do? Just stay home and practice?
It's been I can't wait, and I hope we can get back to normal. I know things may change, and that's another discussion in itself. But.
Yeah, as we're speaking, things are changing.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. But no, we're not going back to that. It's
no.
We'll be okay. The question I was going to ask you is, so you've been there from day one. You were there for the October one, the way that rallied the community. We've talked about that on this podcast at length. And I guess the question is, are you surprised by, you sort of said that you were surprised by how well the team performed, but are you surprised by how big the team is in this community and how much people love it and the fan base?
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about it without mentioning 1 October and the devastation, the tragedy, how horrible it was. And then, the team, and I remember I was new to the town, and it's just, it's hard to talk about, but the one thing in that and what sport can do in general is, give people a little bit of break from that reality. And I think, that bond that was shared between the Golden Knights organization and this city and, the most difficult of times really is what has grown to passion for both sides, how much the players and the organization, and beyond the players, myself, a connection we have with this city that came through that, and when people needed most something to smile or cheer, like that first game, I have never experienced, that type of emotion and then happiness, sadness and happiness. And then it just carried through that year. That's what made it so magical.
So you are surprised then by the community aspect of this team.
Yeah.
No one could have predicted that, obviously, the tragic events and the way that. But it's unbelievable. I mean, it's become in 4 years, it's become a mainstay of the city, essentially.
It really has, and it's just, and it continues to grow. And I see it. I am also involved in kind of at parts when I can at helping and seeing youth hockey grow at the grassroots level. And that was, as I mentioned right off the top, one of the attractions to coming here beyond just calling games is to share this sport that's given me everything in my life and see other people have the chance to experience it, to love it. And it's great to see the kids, and the numbers have just grown astronomically. They've now we got the Henderson ice sheets, and not only we got 2 pro teams here now in hockey with the American Hockey League and the Henderson Silver Knights.
No, I love seeing people in the merchandise and the T-shirts, having a team that they support that they can call theirs. I don't think that's happened with the Raiders or will happen with the Raiders because it isn't necessarily ours. It might happen to a degree, but not in the same way that the Golden Knights is like our team as a community. I
think that's it, and the best slogan, Vegas born.
Right.
That really connects. This team was born, and the Raiders, the NFL's a beast. It's going to be successful regardless, but it's a transplant. I'm going to cheer for them. They're our home team, but it's certainly, I don't think it's, as you mentioned, it's not a team that was born here in Vegas, and the connections that were made in year one.
Any thoughts then on what the Seattle expansion, they did their draft last night,
Last night.
How, what were your thoughts on that?
Did
they do a good job with their draft?
They did. There's certainly a direction they're taking. I think right now, with what's happened with COVID and obviously economy in the NHL, which is a salary cap league, and now it's a flat cap that's not escalating, which usually goes up every year, makes cap space probably the most valuable commodity. And they did a good job of, selecting their team, and instead of taking maybe bigger names or better.
Are all those guys that were already? Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Are all those guys that were cut?
No, so every team...
You get to draft from anywhere you want?
So you get one player from every team.
Oh, wow.
So, and every team's allowed a protective list of, 8 skaters and 1 goalie. So they can do 5 forwards, 3D, 4, however they wanted to work it.
So you're sort of a reject because you didn't get on the protective list.
Sort of.
Was that a bit of a contributing factor in the Golden Knights' initial year? Here's an entire collection of guys who were rejected, who were left, who were discarded by their old team. Everybody comes in with a chip on their shoulder.
Sounds like they weren't rejected. They were just not protected.
They weren't. It depends how you take it. And I always say as an athlete or even as a businessman, what's your motivation? Is it somebody challenging you? Sometimes it's good to be PO'd. That drove me. If somebody doubted me, and I think that's what it did. And the real good thing they did, and this is the scouting aspect. I think they got real good pro scouts and amateur scouts that can project guys. They can watch players, which they did ad nauseum to evaluate, not only evaluate their skill, but to look and see what their ceiling. How can they, give this player more ice time, put them in these situations? Like a William Karlsson, who, scored 6 goals, highest in career, and then he scores 43.
Right.
Like that's, and I don't think he's a 40-goal scorer. He's probably 25, maybe 30. But seeing that value in him when it's hard, they did a really good job with all the players. And then they stole some players with those trades I was talking about, getting like Marchessault and Tuck and Theodore.
Who did we protect this year? Who were our 8?
We didn't have to. The Golden Knights were exempt because they're the new team.
Oh, they're still considered the new team?
Yeah, so it was part of when they came in.
So you can't take one of their players?
No, they were the only team in the league. They were exempt from that expansion.
If you were protecting 8 players, would you protect Fleury and Lerner?
You can't. You can only protect 1 goalie.
Which one would you protect?
I'll let you guys answer that one.
So you started your broadcast career in radio?
I started in radio.
So how was it when they told you, we need your insight, we need your reflection, we need your wisdom, and we need it in 4.5 seconds?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, the ability to get it. Hockey is, it's not like baseball or even football where there's whistle and it's slow. Hockey's, and it's even harder when I don't work with my play-by-play partner side by side. A lot of times I'll be between the glass. So you've got to have chemistry. You've got to be able to read, timing in the play, watching. And that's what I liked about it. It was, okay, you've got to get in and out of that comment quickly because who knows, that puck could turn around and go. You don't want to talk over a goal or over a scoring chance.
Of all the broadcasting jobs in the world, the most frantic, even more so than the NBA, is NHL on the radio.
The radio. The radio,
That must be insane. People listen to that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's good. I think radio's it's the perfect way for me, who had no background in it, to learn, because you have to be descriptive. And the good thing about radios is sometimes you can use a little smoke and mirrors because people can't see what's happening. So whereas TV, you've got to be a little more true. They can see it.
Right.
So there's some changes when it comes to what we do. But I loved doing radio. It was great. Not only doing that, but doing shows. And it's been something I think that really helps you develop in the broadcasting. But TV's where it's at for me.
You ever miss the action, though, of being on the ice, fighting, playing?
I don't. No. My body tells me a lot of mornings that you shouldn't miss it. The only time I miss it, and a lot, I missed, and players say this, I asked Derek England, I said, this is so true to the fact. You leave the game. Do you miss the game? No, you miss the guys. Like, that's your brotherhood when you step away from the game. You spend all your time. I think I miss the juice. I miss that adrenaline, that energy when playoffs come, because everything gets cranked up. That's it'd be good to go up for one. I'd love to be able to come out of the helmet here and skate onto the ice in front of those fans, which it's just an atmosphere.
It's like a show.
It's unlike anything in the league.
It really is, right? I mean, I've never been to a hockey game outside of Vegas, but I imagine it. Well, I've been to Wranglers games, so
Yes.
a little bit less exciting than the Golden Knights game. But the energy is fantastic.
It is. It really, and then that's part of what the crew has done here is just the vision they've had, the entertainment and business side. Like every part of the organization's really had a hand in making this what it is.
I definitely should have bought into the sponsorships earlier on.
Oh,
It got a little more expensive later on.
I'm sure it bumped up.
Yeah, exactly. It sure did.
After you won the Stanley Cup, everyone gets a day with the trophy.
Yes.
What did you do with it?
So I took it to my hometown in Neepawa, Manitoba, and we went to my parents' house, a lot of close friends, family, their backyard, and then I took it to my ice hockey arena, where I grew up playing. And I was shocked. So it's town 3,500. I think there were 1,700 people lined up.
Half the town
So
came.
I went and I did pictures and autographs for I think five and a half hours.
Wow.
Nice.
And then we held we call them socials. Back then you sell tickets. It's like a big dance, a gathering.
Yeah.
You have your bar and people pay, and it's cheap, but you try to raise some money because I gave it all back to the facility for them to up. Whether it's the stands or buy a new Zamboni,
Nice.
anything like that. And then, after that, usually the keeper of the cup, there's a guy that goes around with it from the league. And usually, like, you're in a bigger city and they stay in a hotel. We have a couple little hotels in Neepawa. He was going to stay there, but my mom, where I got my gift of the gab from, she said, "You're not staying in a hotel." I made up the basement. So then we went back, and in good small town Manitoba fashion, we had a garage party in my dad's garage because he keeps it very clean. He's
How
very
nice.
organized.
How great.
And, we partied till the wee hours.
What a way to inspire the next generation in your hometown.
I can just see the keg in the garbage can, right?
Okay, well, I'll just say this. I may have fell asleep. It was a long day, and my friends took a lot of interesting photos with me
the
positioned around the cup.
Ooh.
I want to say a couple of years ago, someone from Pittsburgh bought the cup downtown. I don't know why. It was at the Gold Spike.
The cup comes here every year. Like the teams will come and celebrate in Vegas.
Right. Somebody brought the cup to the Gold Spike a few years ago. I'm going to have to research why that was. I don't know what the history of that was.
No, I don't know. But it does. I think every trophy from every league comes to
Vegas at some point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think is next for sports in Vegas?
Oh, boy. I think you might know more than me, but I certainly see more. Is it going to be the NBA? Is it going to be baseball? Is it going to be MLS? Right. The indoor football league is coming now.
The guy, what's that called? Lacrosse?
Lacrosse is coming.
Oh.
Yep. I just think it's becoming a sports town, which nobody thought. And I think a lot of that is, obviously brought on with the success of what the Golden Knights have been able to do. And then, the Raiders coming, which the NFL, as I said, is massive. But it's going to lead to others. And, Yeah, I think it's, this. We've seen what's happening in the city, the growth, and
it's just tough to beat that experience of that T-Mobile Presents with gambling on the game. The hotel's right there, the food, the drinks, the music, the experience, the after party, the before party. I mean, it's just tough to beat that.
Well, there's
anywhere in the world.
There's no other location. The only comparable I have is probably Madison Square Garden, right? Because where it's located. But there's Nashville's another one. It's right off Broadway, which is their street. But Nashville, I love Nashville. It's my favorite place to travel. But it's still not Vegas. It's still, you're not coming off the strip into the plaza and into,
Thank you for that plug. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, that said, with the venue right in the middle of the tourist capital of the world, the success in the box office of the Golden Knights is fueled by the locals.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the one thing that, still
surprised everybody, right?
It surprised everybody, and it still fuels my anger when people say, oh, it's all tourist. It's not.
It's none.
It is a local team, and it is supported locally massively. And I think that was a surprise for a lot of people because you're going to get doubters. That's what happens. They're the new kid in school that everybody likes and is fancy. They're smart. They're popular. So, of course, you're going to have people say, I don't like them.
So I think we are getting enemies, though, which is a sign of a good team, right?
It is.
You got to have some.
Oh, it's great.
I was driving to California, and I stopped at a gas station. I was wearing a Golden Knights T-shirt. The guy was like, "Get out!" And I was like, "Why?" I didn't even know what I was wearing. I mean, I knew I was wearing, but I didn't know there was rivalries. And he was a San Jose.
Oh, Sharks. That rivalry was the first. Well, I think the first one was the Kings, and then it became the Sharks. And rivalries are born out of playoffs, and Golden Knights. They've been in playoffs.
I was like, yeah, we're making it. We got enemies. That's good.
That's a good sign.
That's what you should say to them. Well, you guys aren't in playoffs now, so we're not that much of an enemy.
And the Kraken very first league game will be here in Vegas.
I've seen that. That's exciting. That schedule comes out. I think it came out 15 minutes ago for the Golden Knights.
Oh, it did?
Came out? It's supposed to be coming out. That's a big thing for me because I can look ahead and kind of plan because, I can't change that day. I can say, oh, that game doesn't work. I don't know if I should. No, I've got to work everything around
you can't book a
that
tea
schedule.
Time.
Yeah.
Can't book a tea time.
No, I can't say, oh, I'm going to take, I won't be at that Kraken game. I got to tee off at 6 p.m.
One last question before you go. What career advice do you have for the little tiny baby hockey players out there?
Have fun. Be a good teammate. Learn to play a team sport. I think that's the biggest thing I've played all sports have been my life, but I think the great thing about that is, recognizing you can be part of something for the greater success. I believe in that in business world, you believe like the people around you help you find success and you work hard and have fun. If you don't have fun, then don't do it. It's got to be fun.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insight. It's an honor to have you and have somebody share so much insight into the history of their career, but also the sport that frankly is taking over this town, which is wonderful.
Well, I really appreciate and thank you for the invite here to come and jump on the podcast.
We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends about On the Corner of Main Street, and of course, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's @PlazaPod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast. Or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan @JonathanJossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.